Well, hello, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to today's live AMA. So today we're going to be having both myself and my colleague, Samantha Brown, who's going to introduce herself in just a second. And we are going to be talking and taking all your questions today around Microsoft Teams live events and stream. We know there's a lot of questions out there. We get all kinds of questions like, what if I want to have external guest speakers? What if we want to have, somebody who's doing sign language and we want to co-locate that with the content that's being produced? Lots of stuff that we can cover. We can take this any which way you want, you, the people who are attending. This is all about you. But before we do, we have a couple of things to go through. So let me real quickly just start that off. There we go. And as always, today's live event is brought to you by the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences Group. Certainly it's open to everybody, but this is an HLS production. You can always find myself, my colleague Sam, and all of our colleagues at aka.ms/HLS blog. That's aka.ms/HLS blog. We love to hear from you. We love to take your questions. There's a lot of cool things coming in the new year. So if that's not on your favorites, it should be. Make sure it is. So without further ado, I am going to switch this over to my colleague, Samantha Brown, aka Sam, and she is going to walk you through some of the good housekeeping items of this. So go ahead, Sam. It's all yours.
All right. Hey, everybody. Happy to be here with you today. Like Mike said, we get a ton of questions around live events, ton around stream, especially as we're all working virtually today. So we are here to answer your questions, and here's how we're going to do it. Ask away. Make sure that you ask. We're here for you. We are going to be seeing your questions, and I'll show you where to go if you haven't used Teams live events before, but we will see every single one of your questions and we'll moderate them. We will bring them up during the presentation and get them answered directly. So don't worry, we're seeing every single thing you type. And even if you don't have a question that's top of mind and you're just here to listen to others, we still want to know where you're from. It's always great to get to know the people on the call. So I'm coming in from Manhattan. I know Mike's in North Carolina. Would love to know where you all are from. So make sure to give us a shout out and we'll definitely acknowledge those too. And then just like Mike said at the end, we always post all the resources and this recording. So make sure if your colleagues aren't able to make it or if you find some useful information that you want to share, just direct people to our site. It's aka.ms/HLS blog. So if you haven't used Teams live events before, if you go to the next slide here, Mike, I'll show you where exactly to locate the question and answer. So on the top right-hand corner of your screen, there should be a little question mark with the box around it. That's what you want to click. And when you click that, you will see where you can type in your name. You can also leave it anonymous, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then type in your question and answer there if you just click to the next slide there, Mike. So super easy to engage with us, and we're here for you today. And that's the screen right there where you have your Q&A, and you can add in your name and your question or your comment. So that's all the housekeeping for today, and we definitely want to hear your questions. So anything top of mind, shout it out for us, and we will get on to the session.
Yeah, so real quickly, there are already getting questions, which I think is awesome. And, we're going to have to work on this. So rather than just a still shot of us, we'll put something else. But we're already getting a number of questions. So let's go and jump right to them and some shout outs. And then we can continue to take questions or again, we have some great stuff. Oh, I just saw Florida posting. Wish I was there right now. All right. So first question, and this is a great question I get and see all the time. If you submit questions as anonymous in a live event in your organization, can the IT people see who you are in the background anyways? Does this depend on your tenant settings? And actually, I'm just going to put our, our still, there we go, onto the session piece up there. So I don't know if you want to tackle that, Sam, if you want me to, it's up to you.
Go for it. I can add in too.
All right. So there's actually, for those of you who are watching, and I'm going to do this. I like seeing people. I'll just switch back and forth and we'll do the whole production piece, have that ready. There we go. So when you're talking about a live event, there's actually two logs that get created. Number one, as far as can they see in that real-time chat? No, I mean, if it's anonymous, like right now, Patty P in NC, she wrote her name, right? She put it in there from NC. And by the way, thumbs up, Patty. Woo! I'm out here near Jordan Lake in Raleigh, in the Raleigh area. But I can't see, it says anonymous. So it actually does record that as anonymous. But on the back end, there's two reports that get generated. They're downloadable in Excel format, one of which is an attendee file, and the other is the Q&A. And in the Q&A, those questions show either anonymous or their ID based on that selection. So obviously, if you're authenticated and it's an internal event, you are authenticated and we can see who that is. But we're not providing that, we see that in the engagement report, not the Q&A, the engagement, who's attending. We can see who attended, right, in those internal events based upon your login. On the Q&A report, though, if you select anonymous, it registers instead of their ID as anonymous, and that's important. The reason why we can do that there is because even if you ask something wildly inappropriate, right? You came out and you said something offensive or, whatever the case might be, that's going to get registered, but it's in moderated Q&A, which means nobody sees it unless a moderator explicitly publishes, like I'm doing here, and Sam is as well in the background, unless they explicitly publish it. When that's published, then everybody sees that. They can also just archive that off, right? And so there is a level of protection both for the presenters and for the Q&A attendees through moderated Q&A and anonymous, so that people can feel free to express things. Very frequent when we want to do executive engagement, where somebody might ask something they're worried about, I don't want to track back to me, but it's not derogatory and it's something that would be broadcast and that the executive is willing to tackle. Nobody sees it unless they, signify that, hey, I want to tackle this, and then they can go ahead and do so. But it does provide that anonymity. So I hope that answered your question. In the meantime, the shout outs I've seen so far. Patty P and NC again. Dave Smith in the cold tundra of Pittsburgh, one of my favorite cities. And I understand, I think the snow's melted. I know it's melted Philadelphia way. And then Joe Gasper in Gainesville, Florida. Dude, I want to be in Florida. I want to bring my down to Dustin. All right. So do we have more questions?
Yeah, we have a bunch. I was going to show live what you were talking about with the different settings for the live event too, just so people can see it and get a picture of it. So let me show my screen here and then we can go on to the next
why
question.
don't you go ahead and share your screen. I'll start publishing out the questions just so everybody can see. Cool. I see man, they're getting some good stuff. This is great. And
awesome.
If you see it published as a shout out or a question, we're going to get to it.
Awesome. So one of the things that you asked about was if you can have people that are attendees coming in as anonymous, and that is possible if you use this setting here that says public. So when you're setting up a new live event, just to go back to the basics here, let me go to the screen before. The first thing it'll ask you is like, okay, title, location, what time's it starting, the details, similar things to setting up just any regular Teams meeting. And then you also invite the whole event group, whether it be the presenter, the producers, whoever you want to be in that group. Now, you don't have to do that all ahead of time. You can always add presenters and producers later, but just so you know, the second screen though is I think what is the most important, and this is the one that I get the most questions on, is the permissions here. So the only way for people to be able to join the event anonymously, like what we have today, is if you set it up as a public event. Now, the default is organization-wide, and this is just our demo organization, Contoso. But if you click organization-wide, or you click just specific people and groups that you want to invite, then every single attendee will actually have to authenticate in order to get into the live event. So you will automatically get the report that shows exactly who is coming in because they have to authenticate to get in. Say it's organization wide, you can still add guests outside of your organization to the event to be attendees, but they needed to be authenticated as guests. Whereas public, like what we have today, this open anonymous webcast, you can join, you can be anonymous, and you do not have to share your email address or your name unless you want to. When you get the reports afterwards, when you actually go back into the event and you're looking through like who attended, it will just automatically assign you, if you choose to be anonymous, just a randomized ID, so they can see how many people joined, but not the actual authentication. So just to go back to the basics there, in case you haven't set up a live event before, those are the 3 settings there. We get a lot of questions on that one.
Yeah, and just to kind of quick add on to that,
yeah,
with just so to clarify, because I get asked this a lot, where people they're like, look, we want to show to our org wide, but not necessarily to contractors and others who are there, who are guests of their 365 tenant. So that first one, all org, if people are added there, you know, just to be real clear, that org-wide setting, when people select that, that is going to let anybody who's a guest or a member of their regular AD watch that particular broadcast. So if the idea is, look, we're doing guests onto here, but we don't want to allow those people, then you need to do the group, you know, the people or groups setting, and then do an org-wide type group that you're going to, you know, restrict that access. So just something to be aware of. They would have to still get the invite, but, you know, with the org wide, but if they had it and you provided, then they would be able to see that. So we've gotten a ton of questions. Before we go to any more questions, real quickly, I think I saw Patty said she's from Charlotte. I have 2 nieces down there, so they're both nurses in the fight in COVID. One's an ER nurse, so I actually am going down there 2 weeks for a wedding. Worthing in the south coast of the UK. Nice. Excellent. I love seeing people. I would do a British accent, but it'll reach through the computer and strangle me. And I think that's it for now. All right, so yeah, so we've got, real quickly before we jump into more on these, somebody asked about, I do want to just kind of, this will help. Further, there was one, where is it, about, the bookings API. So we're not addressing bookings or others. In fact, I'd want to get an expert from our Microsoft Teams group to talk bookings, somebody who actually focuses on that. I have no insider knowledge to that, unless you do, Sam.
Yeah, I have a lot of customers that have been using bookings. Let me find the question here. Let's see. Which question are you referring to, Mike? Wow, we got a lot of questions coming in. This is good.
We got a lot. Yeah, it was one they asked when the bookings API would be available.
When?
Just to be clear, everybody, this is Teams live events and stream AMA. Although it was nice you asked us another AMA.
Yeah, we should probably set up another. Yeah, I don't have insight into the timelines there, but we can definitely ask, and maybe that's another follow-up AMA. I did see a question on live events in China. I actually spoke with one of my customers about this yesterday, and I added this into the chat, but yes, this is something that comes up with a lot of our international customers, and actually users that are located in China, they aren't able to set up or attend live events, and that's Stream, Teams, Yammer live events. Currently, the Azure CDN, which those apps rely on, it's not accessible in China. And so what we always recommend as an administrator is setting up a VPN to connect your corporate network in order for that to work really seamlessly for all of your users. I set the link in here so you don't have to memorize any of that, but that's usually what we recommend. We did get insight from the product group yesterday because this question came up that we are working toward making that a simpler user interface for people in China, but it is something that currently a lot of our customers are dealing with. So know that our PG is working on it, and know that the workaround right now is using that VPN in order to access those apps for your China users.
Awesome. That was great. So the next question I see is, and it comes from Joe Gasper, asking, when running a live event, oh, look at that. You switched it over to me. Thank you. We'll do it back and forth.
We need to get your pretty face up there, Mike.
My pretty. That is not pretty. But when running a live event, it would be great to allow the producer role to unmute. Yeah, we hear this a lot. Any considerations to enable an opt-in for presenters to allow their mic? So there is nothing firm at this point. I've heard that. We've relayed it to the team, but there's been nothing published out about that. And there is, it's one of those things. Yes, we agree that would be great. They have talked about, and somebody also posted later about whether there would be, some different layout views, etc. And we have publicly talked about that, so I can confirm, yes, there is going to be. We don't know what that'll look like. I'm not seeing it yet, and I'm on what they call internally canary build. The canary sniffs the gas in the mine, and you can tell it's an early indicator as to how the stuff's going. So I get like daily and twice daily updates to my software, way ahead of the curve, and I'm not seeing that yet. So I don't know what that'll look like, but we have publicly talked about that. Will that be a part of the new layouts and some of the advanced capabilities? I don't know. I mean, we just don't know. So no news to give you here. I wish we could. We will go back to the product teams again. I've had that asked twice in the last week by customers, not only for live events, but Teams meetings in general. Next, when will there be some admin controls around Teams Live so that we can manage the demand and ensure that events aren't cut out due to license restrictions? So I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. As far as attendees, with public, like Sam showed, anybody can attend. There's no restrictions there. And we can certainly bring in, today, there's a process to bring in guest external presenters, not producers, but guest presenters. And we've publicly talked about how that's going to be easier enabled within the product future coming, but I'm not quite sure what you're looking for there. And what was the next part? We need a way of reporting on them, planning, scheduling, and best practices. So I'm not sure what's NDA and what's not, but all I can say is I think the confusion in that part comes from live events versus Teams live events. And I think you will see as we move forward unification. I'm going to leave that there, which will include admin and reporting. Today we do have some reporting that's available through one versus the other. That certainly is being looked at and will be improved in the future. What that means, though, I'm not sure. Ooh, look at her take charge. Jump in. What happened?
I actually was queuing myself up.
You're in.
Yeah, I'm in now. So I just wanted to follow up on that. And it sounds like you might have a more specific question. So feel free to ask us really detailed questions about what you're going through in your organization, but I'm trying to guess on what exactly you mean there by your question. So I added in some links to the usage report. So you can go into the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. You can actually go to like analytics and reports, and then you click on usage reports, and you can break that down in terms of just live events. So in terms of reporting, that's the best one that's native to Teams today. Like Mike said, there's a lot more coming there. And then in terms of best practices for scheduling, planning, producing, I also added in another link. This one's great. It takes you through everything from audio and video to actually screen sharing, preparing the presenters beforehand, producing it, and things to watch out for when you're setting it up, etc. So check out those, and if they don't help, we're still here to answer your more specific questions on the reporting and administrative side and producing as well.
All right. Do you want to start off the next one? Oh, she threw it to me, so I guess I am here. So next we have another shout out. I'm just kind of scrolling down through the list, and we do have follow up on that one question we'll get to, and they had some great piece. And it's Joe says, hi there. I'm in Worthing in the South Case. Oh, I already said that, didn't I? South Case, UK. Yeah. Well, welcome again, Joe. You're very welcome. Next, any further insight when we will be able to show more cameras at the same time in the future? So that actually touches on something I wanted to address today, because I've gotten questions about people who want to have, for example, sign interpreters and picture-in-picture, etc. Today, in live events, you can have many cameras, but let's be clear. There's the difference between live Teams, Azure encoder, and using an external encoder. All right, so and external encoders can be software, they can be hardware, etc. So for example, I only have a single machine here. I'm actually in the process of taking a very old personal laptop. It'll be interesting to see how that works. And making that a secondary one that I hook up. But let's see if I have, where is that part? I have a little doodad I want to show. It's in one of these. Where is that? It's this other drawer. I have many drawers here. No, it's not there. I may not be showing this little part. Last drawer. And no. All right, well, I'll just have to simulate it. So with an external encoder like OBS software, there's many other software packages available. Or what I used to use and what I really love, and there's many of these, I used to use NewTek TriCaster. And at the corporate level, if you want to do those very polished presentations, I highly recommend check out NewTek. It's NEWTEK. They produce what we call Studio in a Box. It's hardware. It's basically a Windows machine with dedicated hardware and a custom UI front, where you can pull multiple HD cameras. You can also pull in anybody's desktop that's on the local area network as a camera feed. You can also do call-ins via Skype TX, which is built into it. And you can do that as audio or video. So you can allow remote people to, call in, etc., and ask questions. It allows for all that and pre-mixes. And in all those cases, you can then push that feed to Teams in a single window like you're seeing now, but it can have window and window, Brady Bunch, virtual sets, all of that. And that's what I used to do when I was at the technology center outside of Philadelphia for Microsoft. You can create very complex views, and it's made to be fairly user-friendly. There's a couple of videos, if you spend an hour watching them and have any technical acumen, it actually isn't rocket science. It's very simple and easy to do. But you're going to need to make an investment in time and an external encoder and that. Having said that, what Teams will be doing is allowing for different layout templates that will allow for multiple windows, etc. So right now, for example, below, I see myself and I see my colleague Sam, who I'm sending over, and you can see there's Sam. And so what happens is, in that case, I can only push a single video feed, or I can do, small talking head, big presentation, but I can't choose from different layouts and with multiple video streams. That will be changing in the future. We've talked about it publicly. I'm not saying anything people probably don't know, but that's based upon feeds coming into Teams. If you want to do actual high-end production, slick output, etc., then what you need to look at is an external encoder. I'll put documentation up about it, at ones that are supported, but OBS is free. You can download it today, start playing around. It does picture-in-picture, green screen, and you can have like picture-in-picture and picture-in-picture. You could do a whole Brady Bunch window thing, and it'll take as many audio, video inputs as you have available in the hardware. If you want that streamlined and made much simpler and in a supported fashion to output to Teams, then something like a NewTek TriCaster is going to give you all that. I don't know that we're going to do it natively multiple cameras in the client, just because typically when we're talking about in client and I'm using this versus external, we're talking about a much simpler process, right? So you got to weigh the risk and reward of complexity versus capability. Layout seems to be a natural fit for simplicity and flexibility. If you want to get, really sophisticated external encoder. With that long-winded response, I hope I've helped.
Yeah. I have a couple that are grouped up in here that I'm going to share my screen and talk about here. So let me share my browser. Okay, great. So one person asked specifically about, hey, are we going to have any support for end users for live events? We do have a Microsoft 365 Live Events Assistance program. They are awesome. Their whole job is to help you before an event, rehearse for the event, during the event, after an event. I mean, they are all hands on deck. This is through January 1st, 2021. And we don't know what's going to happen after that exact date, but they are there for the remainder of this year. So take advantage of them for the next month or so, and we'll continue to have updates. But this has been out for the entire year, and especially when the pandemic hit, they've really helped a ton of my customers. So you can just go in and request assistance. I also added that in to the chat in this meeting chat today. So make sure to utilize them if you have any upcoming. Another person asked about limits and specifications for live events for Teams. So as you can see here, the number of concurrent live events running in an organization is 15 right now. So you can run 15 at a time. That being said, because of the outbreak, to help support everyone through January, we actually extended this temporarily where you can have up to 50, so 50 simultaneous events. Yeah.
That was the background.
Yeah, thanks for the backup there, Mike. Yeah.
high
So,
tech here.
yeah, so we definitely those are there for you, and we know that a lot of customers have asked about extending those limits. And after January 1st, 2021, what's going to be available for you is actually our advanced communication add-on SKU, which I also added into the chat here. But just so you know, if you still continue to need those limits to be increased, so you need more attendees in each of your events, so you need to reach larger audiences. You want to tailor your meetings and customize them. Maybe you want to have a custom branded lobby experience. You want to have more control over managing your communications, whether it be, monitoring, tracking, analyzing. This advanced communication SKU will be there. Like I said, just to be clear, up until January, you're able to have up to 50 events. But, if you want to continue that and your organization continues to utilize that, we've been using this advanced communication SKU. It's usually not something that the entire organization has to be licensed for. It's usually people that are creating a lot of meetings where there are a lot of attendees, or it's a person that's creating meetings and events where they want to have that customized experience. They want more control. So it's something that your organizations can look into. And, Mike and I are technical specialists. We have all of the Microsoft account team that's there and available for you if it is something that you're interested in. So don't hesitate to reach out if you are interested in that. But just so you know, up until January 1st, you have this live events assistance program. You also have these limits increased just by default. So take advantage of that and play around with it this month. And then if you do continue to need that, then we're around for you past January as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I have got I have a follow-up, and the person Josh, who had asked about booking API. He said it's actually the one for live events. So Josh, we don't have any insight as to when those APIs might be available, or the API for that particular. We will be taking, like I said, I'm going to be taking all these questions and feeding them back to the product team. So hopefully we'll have an update, and I'll post that when I get it. We're going to post out this recording with all the resources, and then we'll take that, any follow-up that comes, we'll post those as updates to it. So hopefully we'll have something for you there. So stay tuned. I don't know of any date, and do you know of any, Sam, on that piece?
I don't, but we will definitely follow up for you.
So I see you answered the best practices, the 15 concurrent, context, NDI. You didn't talk NDI.
I did not.
Let's talk NDI. So this isn't NDA, this is NDI. So NDI, if you're not familiar with it, allows to take different resources available. Typically, they're on your local area network, and pull them in as camera feed. It's actually a technology developed and updated by New Tech, who I mentioned earlier, who does the TriCaster. That comes with their stuff out of the box, and they have an agent that you can deploy out. If you download the technology for NDI to leverage that within Teams, it's actually from them. It's the little plugin and all that. That is from New Tech. So again, great partner, great place to go and check out. They do all kinds of open source stuff, this being one of those. But with NDI and adding, the question was around some context for NDI functionality for use in live events. An example would be this. So Sam and I are able to share our desktops. Easy enough, right? We can share things that are happening. We can show you PowerPoint, or like she was just showing, a website. We can show any app, anything that's running on our local desktop. What NDI will let you do, if deployed, is NDI has to be running on those other resources. So for example, let's say I had another separate physical computer here, and that was running, and I wanted to show like setting up Teams, broadcasting, viewing, and doing all that stuff. I could install NDI on that PC. That would then, and when it's turned on, that machine would show up to Teams, just like when I go to share. That would be a shareable resource that I could then access and show and share. So NDI does that. It's been around. It's actually been around in Skype for content creators for quite a while. They use it frequently for podcasts. That's still one of the big uses of Skype. People doing podcasts use that, both audio only and video. But being able to pull in NDI resources has been a big deal there for years, and they brought that over. So that opens up a lot of things. I will tell you though, keep in mind when we're talking NDI, a lot depends on your network. When I was in the technology center, we had an uber fast network within the technology center that was kind of its own deal. And it enabled us to do really cool things, virtually real-time views of desktops, and we used it a lot. We even did it to pull in stuff from our envisioning center and others. So NDI is a great tech. However, there can be, depending upon the machine you're running, the machines, your network, if you're doing it from home, depending on your topology, you may experience some lag. So you need to experiment with that, take that into account. And but it's great tech. Highly recommend, check it out. It's only been improving over the years. It's been around for many years. I was using NDI on against TriCasters almost 10 years ago. So check it out. It's some great stuff to leverage, and I highly recommend it. But your mileage will vary depending on your network. Would be great to add together mode into the Teams produce live events. It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, without hacking it via USB HDMI capture. You get no argument. I don't know what to say. I don't know if or when. I don't know that hasn't been published, and I don't know. That's one of those nice to haves. You can certainly do it today with an external encoder, and you can pull that in. I will tell you, we've done that, something similar. So I did a event where I appeared as a part of a AvePoint webcast with Dex Raymond Sy, and I was a part of a panel. And what they did was they had two machines, and I think he was using an Elgato for the pullover, where they set up teams and all the people they wanted to have, and it wasn't together mode, it was the Brady Bunch view, but similar. You could do together mode now. But they pulled everybody in on that machine, and then they pulled the frame of that over to the live events one and showed, but it's not, I wouldn't call it a hack, call it an external encoder. Content source. We'll just call it that. So that can be done. We agree. Oh, Sam agrees.
Yes, I would love that.
OBS,
more layouts coming, though, like we keep mentioning.
Yeah. There's a lot coming down the pike. There are certain priorities taking place as we're moving to the new stream, which I saw. We'll get to some questions around that. OBS Virtual Cam plugin is great for. Yes, it is. That's again why OBS is awesome, right? You can pull in and it'll run that stuff at a native frame rate, which I love, and I love it. It does a great job, and gives you silky smooth video. It looks just the same as the webcam here.
Yeah. So the next one, I'll go ahead and post in live. So the next one is around Teams meeting support. And so I know I introduced the advanced communication SKU that I was showing. So at release, the advanced communication SKU actually released in August 1st, and it included live event support for up to 20,000 participants, the 50 concurrent events like we were talking about, and then 16 hours per broadcast. And then by the end of this calendar year, we are going live with the interactive team meetings for up to 1,000 participants. And what will happen is that when you hit 1,001 participants in a standard Teams meeting, so not like what we're in today, just a standard Teams meeting, once you hit that 1,000 mark, on the 1,001, it will go to a view only mode for the attendees, because you don't want them interacting as much, when you have over 1,000 people. So it will go to view only. It will be a lot like a live event where the audience can still interact, but they're not going to share their screen, their audio, their video, and that will be up to 20,000 attendees in that view only meeting experience. And then the other thing that's slotted to come out by the end of the year is the custom branded meeting lobby. Now, again, with a lot of these features, I know that Josh, which was super helpful, posted a link to the Microsoft 365 roadmap, and that's the public facing one. And you can check there on at any time about any feature that you want, and it will actually have whether it's in development, whether it's released, and the actual release date. Usually it's a month or a quarter that will give you that general information. So check that out for sure. And just like a lot of our features, you want to be checking in on that regularly, because it's all, we are testing it out internally in our rings. Like Mike is on that canary ring where he gets all the cool features way before anyone else on the team does, and gets to test them out. But some of them are buggy, and that's why we test it internally before we release it, right? So once it's GA and ready for release to the general public, then we have full confidence in it and it's ready to go. So usually you'll get the quarter or the month on that public release roadmap, but all of those features on the advanced communications queue, right now they're slotted for end of the year.
Awesome. Why don't you take the next one as well? I saw around the web browser.
Yeah, so will it be possible to present from the mobile app or web browser in the future? So good news is web browser is totally doable right now. You can present, you can be a presenter in a live event like this via web browser. I've done it before. I've even been on my thick client on Teams producing, but then presenting from a web browser, totally doable. In terms of the mobile experience, I don't know, Mike, if you've seen any of that coming down the pipeline. I know Josh posted about presenters being able to present from their iPad to the audience, and that's targeted for February 2021. I don't know, Mike, if you've heard anything about the mobile experience.
No, I have not.
Okay. Yeah.
I would assume it when we're talking iPad, iPhone, essentially the same client. So I'm making assumption. Look at you, she knocked me over. Make the assumption that but again, we all know about assuming. So no information on that. I know they continue to enrich that client, but yeah, today you can do the browser though, so that's the good news.
Awesome.
All right. So what did we have next? Let's see. Keep an eye. Oh, look at that with the change log out. Look at that. Boom.
Oh, and Joe,
updates.
Thanks, Joe, for adding in the link about the roadmap. Like I said, great resource there.
Yeah. I get a lot of customers asking how I can invite someone to the stage from the audience. So I'm going to just quickly ask, this is Josh. So Josh, do you mean physically invite them to the stage or virtually invite them to the stage? Because there's two separate, well, I'll just address both real quickly. One is they physically walk up, right? And we do this internally, right? So we have every month, our CEO, Satya Nadella, does a broadcast for our entire company, and they have all the slick production stuff going on, multi-camera, and they have somebody out there. It's like, a talk show that you would see typically on TV, and then somebody with a mic holds up a mic to them, they flip to that camera. But you could certainly do things like that physically. If you want to virtually pull them in, that's where a TriCaster, you could cobble this together, you could build it, but a TriCaster, an external physical encoder, is priceless, because with the integrated Skype TX functionality, it's actually what many of your local TV stations use for the reporter on the street. So, for example, when they'll be in the studio and we have, they're low budget, they don't have necessarily a bunch of those vans, the big satellite things and all that. That's becoming yesterday's news. I want you to think of those times when you've seen a broadcast, and even some of the national ones doing this, where they pull somebody in and they'll say, okay, we have the reporter such and such. And then they'll have them and you'll see like the pixelation and stuff happening. That's because they're on, let's see, it's graying it out. Come on, hold it. No.
You have to hold it close to your face, Mike. Hey.
Oh, my iPhone, right? So they'll have an iPhone on something like a gimbal, a little handheld gimbal, an external mic, one of those rigs you'll see for influencers, right? But they'll have that out there, and they actually use their data connection because Skype TX allows you to access anybody who has a Skype client. And we're providing also that interoperability for TX into Teams natively. So that is coming, right? But today in a TriCaster, for example, I can actually have, I think it's either 4 or 8 concurrent TX people pulled in who can either call in or I can call out to and pull in. And again, years ago, I was doing this in the MTC where I would call in and have people from Redmond come to the stage. And because we were using they also facilitate virtual sets. When I pulled them in, I had a big, virtual, looked like a screen in back of me, and like I was sitting at a fancy desk, which I wasn't, but it had that whole thing, and then they would magically appear in back of me. So you can do that today with an external hardware encoder. You could also download the Skype TX bits. We'll provide a link to TX. You can read all about it, and you could build a machine and then cobble it together. I recommend, if you really want to do that, get something like a New Tech TriCaster with that all integrated. But you can absolutely do that virtually and physically. It's just different approaches. All right.
All right. Let's see what else here. Looks like someone added in the link to the API changelog that updates every month with beta updates. Awesome. Looks like we answered Josh's question. Okay. There is one thing that people haven't asked about here, but I'm going to go over it really quickly because I think, and keep the questions coming. We still have like 10 minutes left, but I just want to make sure that you see this because a lot of my customers have been asking me about it recently. So let me share my screen. Okay. So Mike and I and a lot of our technical specialists for teams have been getting this question around best practices for external presenters. So we get this question of, I go in to set up a Teams live event. I'm adding people from outside of my organization's tenant. And even though I added them to the event group, they are joining only as attendees. And so I just want to set expectations that the reasoning behind that is that they haven't been authenticated as a guest within your tenant before they actually join the event. Now, good news is on the roadmap coming in 2021, you can have anonymous presenters and they can present in your team's live event and they don't have to be authenticated as a guest. Now that was for security purposes. I think it makes sense the way that they rolled it out at first. And so that the way that you have to do it today is you just follow these 3 steps. I do these webcasts and Mike and I do them all the time with people outside of our organization, whether it be customers or partners. And once I follow these 3, it's smooth sailing. First, you have to add them as a guest to a team. Now, honestly, sometimes I will just create a sample team and add them as a guest to that team within my tenant, and that authenticates them as a guest user. they will receive an email, and they have to go through that flow if they've never been authenticated as a guest in your tenant before. And then once they go through that flow, they're good to go. But I always tell them ahead of time, and I can post this actual link in the chat here today, but this is an example of a real email that I sent out to partners before this webcast that we had with them. I was like, hey, just in advance, you're going to have to accept your email invite. You're going to have to walk through the flow. And just to make sure that you're in that team and that you're authenticated, please just shoot a note in that team. Just say hi. That way I know that you're officially there. So once you do those steps, when you schedule the live event, you just add them as a presenter right here. You saw when I was showing my screen, that's the first step of creating this event. Now, when you're setting up a live event, you can set up the event group beforehand, after, it doesn't matter. The key is making sure that they are a guest in your tenant before they actually go to join the event, and that will allow them to be presenters once they click join. So super, super simple, just 3 steps. And again, this is on the roadmap to make this process a little easier, but honestly, these 3 steps take me a total of 4 minutes or so. So it should allow you to have smooth sailing until we do get that feature update.
All right, so let me quick typing something.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer the next word. HTML. I have a back channel going. I didn't want to get somebody in trouble with their work. So I can publish, but we have a good dialogue going about a few things. So let me go ahead and, whoops. There we go. I had lower thirds was a question. So again, that is one, I don't know. I'd love to see it. I think it'd be cool. But I'm not sure if it is or not. Certainly today, again, I'm going to say it again, external encoder, right? Complexity versus simplicity. You can do in external encoders, it can be as sophisticated as the best high-end TV shows out there. And certainly I've done that in the past. We used to use lower thirds with animations and all that, questions. All that's possible today in external, both hardware and software. I even was playing around with OBS the other day and had a ticker tape thing kind of running, not just, the person's name and all that. So that is possible today. Josh asked how many people are in the audience.
Josh.
I'll say there's hundreds of thousands of people potentially. Yeah, we never broadcast that out, but I'm certainly very happy with the dialogue we've had today. I think it's been great. So this has been a great session so far. So thank you all for that. I see Sam just posted best practices for external presenters in live events. So be sure to check that out. We've got about 3 minutes left on the clock if there are any last questions. But just a couple of things to quickly highlight again. Please take a look at the roadmap. They keep that up to date. And as you're doing that, look at both the Teams and the Stream one. Sometimes it'll layer into one or the other depending upon which piece the team is building that. So keep that in mind. Take a look at that. One last thing, it's a little bit different, but and I thought I saw a question about Stream and some of the changes, but remember they asked if there was going to be changes to live events, and I don't know where that went to, but here, just to quickly follow up on that piece, Stream is built today on Azure Media Services, and as many of you know, that is moving with the new HTML5 capabilities and the new SharePoint framework. It's moving to SharePoint/OneDrive. Oh, and I just got the 5-minute warning. Look at that. So it's moving to there. They're enabling streaming, but that gives all the things around retention policies and stuff people have been asking for forever for the on-demand content. For the live, though, it does not impact that because Azure Media Services is where we drive all live streaming from. We're just happy in this case to front end it with the Teams, UI, look, feel, and client in this case for broadcasting. When doing internally, you might be doing it with just an external encoder through Stream or Yammer. But it's all under the hood Azure Media Services. And that means a couple of things. Number one, and then I'll continue to move forward. Number one, if you're watching this live, you'll see the indicator, and it gets to a certain point, it just kind of hangs there and does this little deal. What's happening in the back end is every 14K, a fragmented MPEG is created. And there's a dynamic XML file that's dynamically created. So if you were to go under the hood in Azure and look at, there's a folder that's created, and I've done this in the past, it's kind of wild. For an hour-long broadcast, it's files forever, right? There's a gazillion files out there with this XML file. But that allows us to do things like if you didn't hear something and you wanted to repeat it, what did he just say? What did Sam just say? And skip back and forth. Or if you joined an event late, start at the beginning and watch through, that provides us that capability. We also then have the ability to make that sum total piece available immediately after, right? So that people can join in it. It's almost like they're in the live piece. We then take on the back end, Azure Media Services wraps up all those 14K using the XML file, creates a single MP4 for download, which is then available to the producer. So all that's not changing. What that means is that today we're scaling the services for those allotted amounts, right? 10,000 and 20,000. Technically, in the future, could that change? Sure. From a technical standpoint, today, the largest events in the history of the internet have been delivered from that exact same service, where they've had tens of millions of people viewing a single event. The World Cup, the largest ever, that was all done via Azure Media Services. And so have the last number of Olympics. There's a number of different TV networks. The backbone is Azure Media Services. So all that's available to you. The point is we're doing that. We're front-ending it, making it simple to use. None of that goes away with the new stream, but you will see further integration. Any plans for more spoken languages? Oh, for captions as the primary language. I believe so. So I haven't seen definitive publishing on that, but today you can have a couple of primary. We have many available closed caption for them natively. There's like 38 or something like that or more today available so that you can have it. If you go in the closed caption one of this, you can see I picked 6 where you can toggle between them. I think I did Portuguese. If you'd like to know Portuguese, you can do that because I'm part Portuguese and Italian and many other things because I'm a mutt. So I included many things in there. So, but you can look through the different language sets that we have available. I would love to see on par the primary. Today, it is what it is. So look for that to change, but there's been no definitive roadmap or anything published around that. I might be overstepping my speaking, but
Mike, we got the best question to close out on. Patty P wants to know, what type of microphone are you using?
So I have a 10-year-old microphone here. Let's see if I can. I can't turn off my background. Yeah, again, part of my life. Once you're in here, I can't get rid of my background. That's interesting. I'll try moving it in front of me so you can see it. It is, there we go. This is a 10-year-old USB microphone from Blue. If you go to look up Blue microphones, they have many. They have USB ones, so it has a pop filter, all that good stuff. It has noise canceling built in, and it also, you can adjust direction. There's a ton of settings on this thing. It rocks. The newer ones are much nicer. I got it for like $130 10 years ago. But check them out, Blue Microphone, and yeah, they'll work with any device. They're a go-to for many podcasters. I'll just say that. Any other questions? Oh, I saw we got another one. When we upload a live event recording to stream, the audio and the video is out of sync. I'm talking lip sync is bad. My lip sync is worse than your lip sync. How's that? Did I simulate?
That was pretty good. Yeah, I give it a B.
You give it a B. Yeah, some of that's going to have to do with your equipment / bandwidth. If you are seeing out of sync lip syncing, then I would take a look at your local thing, your local setup first, and some adjustments, getting a good quality mic. The only reason why I say that is this: when it gets shot out, there's not a separate audio stream and a separate video. It's a single stream, right? And then it appears to clients and users as a single stream. So if we're seeing stuff out of whack, typically that's at the origin source, and it's happening here in the mixing and on the desktop, not out there. So take a look at that. I'm trying to think. I remember seeing a couple of things, best practice tips, and I forgot to do this today as I look. So number one, you should turn off on your local machine, pause any cloud recording stuff. Turn off your wireless. You should be wired for that network. You also might want to check the, your firewall. Make sure you're doing things like split tunneling and all that. The best possible connectivity out for the producer, straight out, if possible. But I would take a look at your local machine as a first. There's a whole bunch of variables that can come in with that. I have seen that in the past, and usually it had to do with something on the local settings. Yeah. So I mean, without getting into and taking a look at the person's machine via remote session. Wow. I just clicked. I saw there was more. That's a sucker thing. You have to add remove background in your regular Teams meeting if you're a producer. Works fine as presenter. Interesting. Well, there you go. And Blue is a great mic. Yes, they are. And I think that's all I have. You seeing anything else? Anonymous. Oh, I had another. Nope, I'm not seeing any more questions.
Yep.
I saw something and it disappeared. Well, so
we
much.
Gotta thanks.
All right. So we're at the top of the hour anyways. We ran long. With that, we want to thank you for joining. This is Mike and
Sam.
And thank you for joining. You can find this broadcast. I'll have the transcript up in VTT format if you want to look at everything there. With resources, we're going to go out, grab, and we'll add to it, but it will be available on our blog at aka.ms/HLS blog. That's aka.ms/HLS blog. You can find both myself and Samantha, aka Sam, on LinkedIn as well. Connect with us. We love to hear from you. That's actually a great place where we get questions that turn into broadcasts. If you found today's event helpful, please chime in on the post when we post this up, let us know. Let us know if you want more and if you'd like other AMAs on additional topics. And Sam, do you want to give a plug for your upcoming one?
Yeah, that's thanks, Mike. Yeah, we have one actually coming next week. Really similar. I'm doing it with my colleague that's a technical specialist on the same team as Mike and I, Pete Anello, and we're actually going to be going over Teams templates. So if you're like deploying teams or managing teams or setting up teams a lot within your organization and you want a less manual way to do that, we actually have Teams templates available, and I'm finding that a lot of my customers were unaware of them. So we're going to go through a couple examples of templates that we would recommend, especially for healthcare, but then we're going to just kind of open it up to questions. Will be a little bit shorter format than this, but would love to see you there. Same time next Wednesday. Everything's on the HLS blog that Mike mentioned, but we'll drop the link in here as well.
So with that, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Take care, and as always, ciao.